Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with a combo guide for Snake Eye Yummy. So this is a deck that I played in both of the HoloLive Deckmaster Cups, the official Konami tournaments that took place a couple of weeks ago. And in the first one, I actually made top 8, where in the second, I barely missed out on top 16, and I got 20th place. I'm going to link those combo guides, or not combo guides, sorry, those tournament reports in the description down below if you want to check those out and see some tournament gameplay. So I went 8-2 in the first one and 7-2 in the second one, making our overall win rate just above 75% with a record of 15-4. However, I haven't really done a dedicated combo guide for this deck specifically yet. I did more of a general like Snake Eye combo guide that featured one example of a Snake Eye Yummy combo line, but some of the comments were asking for a combo guide, and I figured I'd go ahead and show it off. Whether you're playing it for ranked ladder or tournaments, I think this is a very strong deck. Also, real quick, I want to give a huge shout out up top to our YouTube members. If you're interested in seeing content early, getting some members exclusive content, as well as getting your name featured at the end credits of every video, go ahead and hit that join button down below next to subscribe. Hugely appreciate it, and it hugely supports the channel. Thank you to all the YouTube members for your membership. But I'm going to start by showing you a combo line with any Yummy monster. So I'm going to start with Cupsy Yummy, and if you do start with Cupsy, you would want to search the Yummy Surprise, but I've already opened that. So I'm just going to skip the search and just illustrate that if you go Cupsy Yummy with the Surprise alone, that's still enough to full combo. Well, not full combo. We're not actually able to access the Snake Eye portion of our deck through Yummy plays alone. However, we can still set up a regular pure Yummy end board. We're going to go ahead and link away the Cupsy Yummy for Yummy Snatchy. And then we're going to go Snatchy Effect, and we will place the Minion. Now we can activate the Minion, and we're going to target the Cupsy Yummy. We'll revive. And even if they like try to bestial you or something there, we of course have the Surprise in hand already. Alright, now at this point we're going to make the Cupsy Yummy way using the Snatchy plus Cupsy Yummy. And we'll activate the Cupsy Yummy way effect. We are going to add, if you didn't already have Cupsy Yummy, you would add it here. Otherwise we're going to grab Marshmao as the next most important one to have. And then probably just Cookie Yummy, either that or Lollipo. Now here I'm just going to go ahead and discard a random card from my hand. This probably is not going to be of much use. We can special summon the Marshmao Yummy with its own effect. And then we can also special summon Cookie Yummy with its own effect. Alright, now here let's go ahead and make the Martial Metal Marcher, using our Cupsy Yummy way plus either of our Yummy monsters. Metal Marcher's effect gets to activate, and we can revive the Cupsy Yummy way. And then we're also going to make the Herald of the Arclight using Martial Metal Marcher and our remaining level 1 Yummy monster. I like throwing Herald of the Arclight in the middle main monster zone, no matter what combo line I'm doing, because then when you make Sprite Elf, it doesn't matter which EMZ you put it in, it's always going to be pointing to it. Alright, let's see. From here, we're going to make our second Yummy Snatchy using the Cupsy Yummy way that's on the field. And then next we can activate Yummy Surprise, and now we can revive the Marshmao Yummy that's in the graveyard. We're going to activate Marshmao Yummy's effect and add back that Surprise we just used. And now from here, I'm going to make the Lollipo Yummy way, using, of course, Snatchy plus Marshmao. Alright, Lollipo's effect is going to activate. We're going to revive. Let's do, it can be really any two of these monsters. We're going to end up linking into Sprite Elf anyway, so it's not going to super duper matter. But I'll just go ahead and grab Cupsy and Marshmao here. Alright, now as mentioned, I do want to make Sprite Elf. We're going to use a Lollipo and then one of our remaining level 1 Yummy monsters. We can activate the Sprite Elf's effect in order to revive Lollipo. And finally, I'm going to make IP Masquerena using the Lollipo I revived and my remaining level 1 Yummy monster. From there, we can set our Yummy Surprise, and this is what your end board looks like. It doesn't look like a lot at a glance. However, there are very many layered interactions here. We, of course, have our Herald of Arclight acting as an Omni-Negate, as well as having the Floodgate effect as well. The IP Masquerena can go into SP. Elf can actually, as soon as your opponent begins their main phase and passes priority to you, you can revive Lollipo Yummy Way, which can threaten to revive Snatchy plus either Cupsy for a draw, Cookie Yummy for a destroy, or if you have already used Surprise, you can use Marshmao in order to add it back. From there, you can go into the Cookie Yummy Way to turn stuff face down. And don't forget Surprise can bounce cards as well. So even if you don't access your Snake Eye engine, as you can see, this basic pure Yummy style combo line is going to put up a nice end board. But from here on, the end boards are going to get even better. So let's show off some Snake Eye lines. Okay, next I'm going to show you a combo line that begins with Snake Eye Ash. Now, there are actually multiple ways you can access this. If you normal summon Snake Eye Ash from opening it, obviously, that'll begin the combo line. You could open Bonfire and use that to search for Snake Eye Ash. Or what I'm going to do here is if you have any monster you can normal summon, plus original Sinful Spoils, that'll do it too. Obviously, we've got some Yummy cards in hand, but for the sake of example, let's pretend like these are not in my hand right now. So, and that they're hand traps and we need to go full combo with normal summon Droll Knockbird and activate original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye. We're going to use that, of course, in order to send away our normal summoned hand trap, and then we'll special summon Snake Eye Ash. Now, from here on, no matter how you begin the combo line, it's going to play out the same from this moment forward. We're going to activate the effect of Snake Eye Ash after summoning it. That'll let us add the Poplar. Now we can activate the Poplar and special summon that. We're going to use Poplar's effect in order to add the Divine Temple of the Snake Eye. Okay, from here we're going to activate Divine Temple of the Snake Eye, and we're going to place a card face up. Yes, we're going to place the Snake Eye Diabellstar. Now I'm going to summon Link Karibo using Poplar as a material. Okay, now this is important. We actually do not want to activate Poplar's effect just yet, for a couple of reasons. The first of which is now we can use Snake Eye Diabellstar's effect to place Poplar, and instead of its own effect, that'll let us special summon the Snake Eye Diabellstar to the field. We'll go over the other reason why it's good to save Poplar in just a moment. But right now, I want to point out something really important. This Snake Eye Diabellstar summon was our 5th summon, right? Droll Knockbird was number 1, then Ash, Poplar, 2, 3, Link Karibo was 4, Snake Eye Diabellstar is going to be number 5. So if your opponent has a Nibiru, they can use it here. However, it's worth noting that if they Nibiru you at this point, then you will have the token and the Divine Temple will actually summon out the Poplar. And that is going to be the case until we get a negate up. Our combo line is going to remain Nibiru proof by having more bodies we can summon if they hit us with the Nibiru. Alright, from here we want to activate Snake Eye Ash's effect, and we're going to send away the Poplar. And now we can special summon Snake Eye Oak. We can do Snake Eye Oak as Chainlink 1, and we'll target the Snake Eye Ash. Now we can do Poplar as Chainlink 2 to place itself in the spell trap zone. And this will actually chain block against Ghost Bell with the Oak effect. Yet another reason why it's good to save the Poplar for later. Also, if they throw out Nibiru here, obviously you would get the Ash body off the Oak revive. If they wait until after the Snake Eye Ash is summoned, then you would still get the token plus Poplar and be able to make Cupsy Yummy Way. Alright, from here we're going to activate Snake Eye Oak's effect. And I'm going to send away the Poplar again. And this time we're going to summon the Snake Eye's Flambird Dragon. Again, we're still Nibiru proof. If your opponent drops a Nibiru right here, the Flambird will activate, summoning 2 of your Snake Eye monsters as well as the token. Now we're going to make our first Yummy monster. We're going to make Cupsy Yummy Way with Link Karibo plus Snake Eye Ash. Now we can activate the effect of Cupsy Yummy Way in order to search. And we're going to grab Cupsy Yummy, assuming you didn't already have it in your opening hand. Again, we're pretending like this Cupsy Yummy is just a hand trap. And we're going to grab Marshmao Yummy as our other card. Now this is going to look really weird, but we actually want to discard the Marshmao Yummy. We can't special summon it with its own effect because we are always going to control monsters that are not Light Beast moving forward. However, by discarding it, we can later revive it off of the surprise that we're going to search off of Cupsy Yummy, and then Marshmao can add the surprise back if we need to do that. So we're going to discard the Marshmao that we just added. That way you don't have to give up any of the other cards that are in your hand as well. Looks weird, but that's actually correct. Now, very important, before we make our next play, we need to special summon the Cupsy Yummy, because we've already used our normal summon, and this is the only point we can get it on the board, because our next play is going to be to synchro away the Cupsy Yummy way. But now at this point, you activate Cupsy Yummy's effect, and I mean, obviously you would grab the Yummy Surprise here. I guess I'll just get Mignon, but obviously you would want Surprise here. And if you didn't already have it in your hand, you would search that. Otherwise, you could just grab another Yummy monster. Anyway, now we're going to make the Baron de Fleur using the Cupsy Yummy way plus Snake Eyes Flambird Dragon. We'll throw that right over here. And of course now we can activate the Flambird Dragon effect in order to revive 2 of our level 1 Snake Eye monsters. And again, even if they still have Nibiru, now you have the Baron de Fleur to negate it, so you don't have to worry about it for the rest of the combo line. Alright, now we're going to actually make Yummy Snatchy next, linking away the Cupsy Yummy that's on our field. Looks a little bit weird, but this is the order you want to do it in. We can activate the Yummy Snatchy effect in order to place the Mignon. This is why you wouldn't want to search it. Again, I just did it in order to make sure we only had access to the minimum amount of stuff needed for the combo line. But, okay, now from here we're going to free up a little bit of room on our board, and I'm going to do so by actually making IP Masquerena using Snake Eye Diabellstar plus one of our level 1 Snake Eye monsters. And we're going to put that in the main monster zone under Yummy Snatchy, doing it in this order for a very specific reason, to have enough room to do everything. Alright, now we're going to activate the Mignon effect, reviving one of our Cupsy, or rather one of our Yummy monsters in the graveyard. Okay, next we're going to activate, or rather summon the Lollipo Yummy way, using Snatchy plus the Cupsy Yummy. And I very specifically want to summon it to the extra monster zone. That way we can still use the effect and summon 2 Yummy monsters. It's not up to 2, it's exactly 2. So if I had put it in the main monster zone, I wouldn't have gotten both bodies here. But because it's in the EMZ, we can summon 2 here. And it's also fine that it's in the extra monster zone, because we're going to link away the Lollipo. Okay, now I want to summon Cupsy Yummy way plus one of our level 1 Yummy monsters here. And I'm going to make the Martial Metal Marcher using Cupsy Yummy way plus the Snake Eye Oak. We'll put that there. Now Martial Metal Marcher gets to activate. We'll revive the Cupsy Yummy way. Put that here. We're going to make Herald of the Arclight next using Martial Metal Marcher plus our remaining level 1 monster. Again, I always like putting Herald in the middle to make sure Sprite Elf is always pointing to it. And with our 2 remaining Yummy Synchro monsters, we're going to link into Sprite Elf using Lollipo and Cupsy Yummy way. I'm going to put Sprite Elf over here because I need one of Sprite Elf's zones to be open. That way I can use IP Masquerena in order to make Little Knight. You might think, well, why wouldn't you want Elf to target protect both of your Omni Negates? That's because then I wouldn't be able to link summon until I either got rid of Herald of the Arclight or if I linked away the Baron de Fleur. However, because I'm putting Elf over here, leaving a zone open, now I can summon SP Little Knight whenever I want to on their turn. We still need to activate Sprite Elf's effect. I'm going to revive Lollipo Yummy way, and I'm going to put it underneath the Sprite Elf. Again, leaving this zone open in case I want to summon Little Knight earlier on. We can set the surprise, and this is what your typical turn 1 end board should look like if you opened access to your Snake Eye cards. You should have 2 Omni Negates, the Baron de Fleur plus the Herald of the Arclight. Arclight also acting as a floodgate. On top of that, you have the IP Masquerena, which lets you go into SP Little Knight for multiple banishes. The Lollipo Yummy way can always tag out for the Snatchy plus the Cupsy Yummy for a draw. And then you can go into the Cookie Yummy to turn 2 cards face down, while also using Yummy Surprise in order to bounce multiple cards. Elf gets a revive here too, And also, we didn't even need to revive Marshmao using Surprise during our turn 1, but if for some reason you needed an extra body during your turn 1, then you could have used Surprise in order to revive Marshmao, and Marshmao would have gotten back Surprise. But again, our combo line and the number of bodies it puts out is so expansive, we don't even need to do that. Also, no Promethean Princess here. It was in my old combo line, but I found that having that one extra interaction really didn't matter that much in the grand scheme of things. Like, it never was the deciding factor in a duel. And in fact, I don't even like using Promethean Princess to revive herself during the opponent's turn, because that means during my next turn, I don't really have an easy way of getting her off the field, and I'm going to remain fire-locked, meaning I can't do Yummy plays. So I don't think Promethean Princess is horrible in Snake Eye Yummy, but I have cut her in order to make a more efficient build. Alright, so again, that is the combo line off of Snake Eye Ash, or the Diabellstar for OSS, or Bonfire for Snake Eye Ash, or even just opening OSS plus a hand trap you can normal summon like we did here. Okay, so if you go first and open Wanted, Seeker of Sinful Spoils, that is actually going to play out a little bit differently than the other combo line I just showed you. Even though Wanted searches out Diabellstar, which then in turn sets up your full combo through OSS, Wanted is a little bit different because of a specific card we're playing in the extra deck. So, first of all, you always want to activate Wanted during the draw phase to add the Diabellstar, the Black Witch, to your hand. Because, of course, if your opponent's got Droll and Lockbird, they can't use it against that search during the draw phase. Okay, now we're going to special summon the Diabellstar using a random card from our hand. As always, we're going to ignore the other extra extenders in our hand for the time being. Alright, now we can use Diabellstar effect in order to set the original Sinful Spoils. However, before you go activating this, we have something else that we can do here. Because we activated a spell card, we can activate the effect of Dark Magician of Destruction to special summon by banishing the Diabellstar from our field. Now Dark Magician of Destruction on summon has the effect to add any Dark Magician or a card that mentions it from deck to hand. For my build, I'm only playing one card that fits that criteria, which is a card we already opened, the Magician's Souls. So if I hadn't opened it here, I would have searched it off the Dark Magician of Destruction. Now, you might think to yourself, oh, but you could also add the Gaze of Timaeus and make Dragoons here. And that is an option. The extra deck has room for it. You could probably just end up cutting like the Almirage if you wanted to. Or if you were on like WP Fancy Ball instead, you could potentially cut that. However, I'm not playing the Gaze of Timaeus because I think Snake Eye Yummy's biggest weakness is that it's a little bit bricky, and I don't want to add a card like Gaze that makes it even more bricky. So I'm playing Magician's Souls, an extender that works even if you don't search it off of the Dark Magician of Destruction. But anyway, now from this point we're going to activate the original Sinful Spoils, send away the Dark Magician of Destruction in order to special summon the Snake Eye Ash. Now, the combo line from here can pretty much play out exactly the same way as the last one I showed you if you opened Diabellstar, Ash, Bonfire, or OSS plus a hand trap. However, because the Wanted line does get you the Magician's Souls, I'm going to show you how to weave that in here in a moment. We're going to go for the Poplar effect in order to special summon, Poplar effect in order to add the Divine Temple. Now we can activate the Divine Temple and place the Snake Eye Diabellstar. We're going to go for Link Kuriboh using Poplar as a material. We're not going to activate Poplar just yet. First, we're going to activate the Snake Eye Diabellstar. We're going to target the Poplar, put it in the spell trap, and then special summon. Now from here we're going to go Snake Eye Ash effect in order to send it away with the Poplar, and special summon Oak. Now we can go Oak effect, Chain Link 1, target Snake Eye Ash. We're going to go Poplar effect, Chain Link 2, target itself. Again, same thing that we did in the last combo line up to this point. However, this is where things are going to diverge a little bit. Because last time I used Oak and sent away Poplar. However, this time I'm going to activate Oak and we're going to send away the Snake Eye Ash in order to summon Flamberge. So now what we've done is we've created a scenario where we still have some Nibiru insurance thanks to the Flamberge, but now I still have the Divine Temple and Poplar left over. So what I can do here is I can activate Magician Souls, special summon itself by sending another Diabellstar from our graveyard, and now I can activate Magician Souls effect to send away Poplar plus Divine Temple in order to draw 2. Because you've already searched so many Snake Eye cards, you're pretty likely to draw into hand traps, as we did here. And again, we didn't have to give up the Nibiru insurance. You could have done this earlier in the combo line, but if you send away the Poplar and Temple before you summon Flamberge, your opponent could Nibiru you and things could get really ugly really quickly. However, here things are going to play out exactly the same way as our previous combo line. This time we're going to use Link Kuriboh plus Magician Souls in order to make the Cupsy Yummy Way. Cupsy Yummy Way effect is going to activate. We'll search Cupsy plus Marshmao. I already have one here, but again, we're going to ignore that. And then you actually want to discard the Marshmao that you added to potentially summon later. You want to make sure to special summon Cupsy Yummy while the Cupsy Yummy Way is still in play. Then Cupsy Yummy can add the Surprise. Now we can Synchro Summon the Baron de Fleur using Cupsy Yummy Way plus Snake Eye's Flamberge Dragon. Alright, and from here we're going to activate the Flamberge effect. After summoning the Baron de Fleur, we can revive 2 of our Snake Eye monsters. We're going to turn the Cupsy Yummy Way into the Yummy Snatchy, and of course on summon, the Yummy Snatchy effect gets to activate. And then we can add, or rather place, the Mignon. Alright, let's go ahead and make the IP Masquerena with Snake Eye, Diabellstar, and Oak, just to clear up some room in our main monster zone. So really the thing you always have to watch out for is making sure you have enough room to do everything here. It's a little bit of a first world problem when playing with this deck. We're going to use the Field Spell to revive one of our Yummy monsters, and then we're going to Synchro Summon into Lollipo Yummy Way using Snatchy plus the Yummy we revived. And remember, we're going to put Lollipo specifically in the extra monster zone. Now we can activate the Lollipo effect. We are going to revive Cupsy Yummy Way plus one of our level 1 Yummy monsters. Like so. Now we can make Martial Metal Marcher using Cupsy Yummy Way plus our remaining Snake Eye monster. Metal Marcher effect is going to activate. That can revive the Cupsy Yummy Way. And we'll add some extra protection with Herald of the Arclight using Metal Marcher plus our remaining level 1 Yummy monster. As always, putting Herald in the center main monster zone, so Elf is always pointing to it. Now from here we can make Elf using Lollipo plus Cupsy Yummy Way. Put that in the right EMZ, making sure that zone it's pointing to is open to be able to use IP whenever we want. Elf is going to revive Lollipo, putting that under itself, remaining... Again, we're keeping this zone open, remaining that. And then we're going to set Surprise, and as you can see, it's the same end board with a couple of extra cycle draws for more hand traps. And speaking of draws, we're not actually done just yet, because the Wanted can actually put back the OSS and give us yet another draw. So, opening Wanted in particular gives you 3 draws on top of your regular combo line. It's a bit of a shame Wanted is limited for the sake of this deck, although I suspect that'll remain the case with how easy it would be to go into Dragoons or any other Dark Magician card off the Dark Magician of Destruction. But that's why I'm playing Dark Magician of Destruction, is a lot of it is for this specific combo line, as well as having the option to search the Magician Souls in other scenarios where you use like Call By or something before you Diabellstar. Either way, those extra draws are a huge buff to an already very powerful end board. Okay, so it's not very likely to happen, but I still wanted to show off what happens if you open Poplar and no other plays, because that line is going to play out a little bit differently. As always, we're going to ignore the other plays that I do have in this hand and pretend like we only opened Poplar plus 4 hand traps. So you would want to begin with normal summon Poplar, and this is the only combo line where you would want to actually add the original Sinful Spoils instead of Divine Temple. even in the other combo lines, if you open with like normal summon Snake Eye Ash, you would still want to add Divine Temple for that Nibiru protection. So we're going to normal summon Poplar, add OSS, then I'm going to link summon, actually, you could go for Almirage or Linkuriboh, but we're going to go specifically for Linkuriboh here, because we're going to need that graveyard effect. Alright, now we're going to activate Poplar's effect, placing itself back in the spell trap zone. We can activate Original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye, send away Poplar in order to summon Snake Eye Oak. Now we can go Oak effect in order to revive the Poplar that's in our graveyard. Okay, next we're gonna activate the Oak effect. And there's a couple of different ways you could do this, right? So the Oak reviving Poplar is actually summons 3 and 4. So whatever we summon off of Oak is gonna be summon number 5. If you wanted to play around Nibiru, you could send Oak plus Poplar, and then your Flamberge would be out, and then if they Nibiru you, obviously you get 2 bodies. However, Linkuriboh plus Flamberge would need to go into something like SP Little Knight, which is going to result on a slightly weaker end board. If you want a slightly stronger end board and don't care about playing around Nibiru, then instead you can send away the Linkuriboh with the Oak in order to revive the Flamberge. Again, if they Nibiru you here, that's going to be pretty rough. However, what we can do if they don't is you can link away Poplar plus Flamberge in order to make IP Masquerena. Now we can activate the Flamberge effect because now there's 2 Snake Eye monsters that are in our graveyard. And this is where I said that the graveyard effect of Linkuriboh is going to come up. We're actually going to activate that, send away one of our Snake Eye monsters in order to revive Linkuriboh. And now that we have a level 1 non-tuner plus a Link 1 monster, we can make, not Lollipo, ooh, I almost clicked on the wrong one there, Cupsy Yummy using Linkuriboh plus Poplar. Alright, we're going to go Cupsy Yummy effect. We can add Cupsy Yummy plus Marshmao. We're going to act like we didn't open this Marshmao. And this is going to be another scenario where we're going to pretty much always have a non-Light Beast monster in play, so we can just discard the Marshmao Yummy. We can special summon Cupsy Yummy. We're going to activate the effect in order to add the Yummy Surprise. Alright, now from here, let's go ahead and summon the Yummy Snatchy using Cupsy Yummy as material. Yummy Snatchy effect gets to activate. And we can go for a Mignon. Mignon can activate and revive the Marshmao that we discarded off of Cupsy Yummy. Yet another reason why it's actually good to discard that. And then we are going to make Lollipo Yummy using Yummy Snatchy plus one of our level 1 Yummy monsters. Alright, from here we can activate the Lollipo effect. We're going to revive Cupsy Yummy plus whatever level 1 Yummy monster is left in our graveyard. We're going to go for the Martial Metal Marcher in the middle main monster zone using Cupsy Yummy plus the Yummy monster. Metal Marcher effect gets to activate. I'm going to target Cupsy Yummy. And then we are going to make Herald of the Arclight using the Metal Marcher plus Marshmao. And finally, we're going to make Sprite Elf. We are going to have to use the IP Masquerena. We'll use that plus the remaining Cupsy Yummy. And I'm going to put it over here, making sure one of those zones is open. Now, we do still have the Sprite Elf effect. We could use that in order to revive the Cupsy Yummy effect, but the extra body isn't super needed. We'll set Surprise, and this is basically a lot of the same inboard, but as you can see, it lacks the Baron de Fleur, and it also lacks the IP Masquerena. Granted, we could revive the IP Masquerena during the opponent's turn with Sprite Elf after they summon a monster, because your opponent has to control a monster in order for you to be able to revive a rank or a link 2. And that way, it's not terrible to make Cupsy Yummy anyway, for a couple of reasons actually. One, you could revive IP and then use it with the Cupsy Yummy to make SP right away, or it's another opportunity to put back a Yummy Synchro monster and summon out Snatchy plus one of your Yummy monsters in graveyard. But as you can see, the Poplar end board is a lot weaker, and that's why I'm only playing one copy of Poplar, and why I don't really want to play a second or third, because I'm not really trying to open Poplar, right? It's a lot stronger when searched off of, you know, like the Snake Eye Ash, right? However, if you open Poplar and nothing else, as you can see, the end board is just, again, it's a lot weaker. Okay, that is going to be it, I think, for the one-card combo lines here. I got a little bit more to show you, and we're going to break down that deck as well. Okay, so this deck doesn't really have any dedicated two-card combo lines, as in, like... Actually, I don't know how to start this. Okay, so for this deck, if you have any two-card combos, those are really just going to result in the same end board as the one-card combos. It's just a matter of having more starters lets you play through more hand traps. But I specifically wanted to show off and shout out the deck's best extender to open with another starter, and that is Marshmao Yummy. This baits so many hand traps and makes so many plays possible, and this hand is kind of a perfect illustration of that. So we're going to use Wanted here that we've also opened during the draw phase, as always, and we're going to grab the Diabellstar, the Black Witch, from deck to hand. Alright, moving into our main phase. Yeah, if I open a hand with Marshmao Yummy plus other starters, I always begin by activating the effect of Marshmao Yummy to special summon from hand. Now you might think, well Lex, that's just going to make your opponent's Izuna alive right away. And yes, that is exactly the point. See, if your opponent's got a K9 Izuna in their hand and they want to use it to summon Valen to turn your Marshmao face down, or Nosh Knight to absorb it as a material, they're going to have to do it at the moment you summon Marshmao. If they wait and you go into Snatchy, then you're able to potentially extend with the help of Minion or other cards, right? So they'll use the Izuna right away, and it's really, really nice because then you don't have to worry about Izuna being procced off of Poplar later on in the Snake Eye combo line instead. Marshmao and Poplar are the only monster effects that are part of our combo line that activate in hand, which again is why it's so important to use Marshmao early if you open it. Now, if your opponent doesn't have a hand trap after you special summon Marshmao, you can just keep doing the regular Yummy combo line that I showed off first until you've summoned Herald of the Arclight. Then you could, for example, normal summon Snake Eye Ash. However, let's say our opponent activated Izuna, summoned Valen, turned our Marshmao Yummy face down, and we didn't have Snake Eye Ash in our hand to normal summon. Well, Diabellstar is another really, really good extender in that kind of situation, because unlike the original Sinful Spoils, the OSS, which requires you to send specifically a face-up card to the graveyard, Diabellstar, it doesn't matter. So even if Marshmao got turned face down by Valen, we could still activate Diabellstar, sending away the now face-down Marshmao in order to special summon Diabellstar. And then, of course, Diabellstar would activate, would be able to set the OSS, and in this specific scenario, because we activated Wanted to get Diabellstar, we'd even be able to go for the Dark Magician of Destruction. And a lot of players, if they have, like, let's say on top of Izuna into Valen, they also had, like, an Ash Blossom here. Now they're super torn, because they're like, well, do I use Ash Blossom against the Dark Magician of Destruction and, you know, not have to deal with the Dragoons? They're probably going to assume you're going to summon a Dragoons. Or do I wait and use it against the OSS? And that puts your opponent in a real conundrum if they've still got, you know, an Ash Blossom they're holding on to. Keep in mind, with this hand in particular, even if they had Ash Blossom against the OSS here, like, let's say, yeah, they chained Ash Blossom, they waited, and they used it against OSS. Well, we could still normal summon Snake Eye Ash. I'll special summon it in this example, but here with this hand, we could still go for Snake Eye Ash in order to add Poplar, and then that would just still be full combo. So this hypothetical hand has played through Izuna plus Ash Blossom, and can play through even more hand traps because we have the extra extender of the Magician's Souls. And even if they don't have any other hand traps, the Magician's Souls can still get us extra draws in a scenario like this. Of course, we'd still go for the same combo line as I'm doing right now that I've shown off in previous examples, right? Ash for Poplar, Poplar for Divine Temple, Divine Temple place the Snake Eye Diabellstar. Then we go into Linkuriboh using the Poplar, like so. Again, you do not activate the Poplar effects from here. Instead, we activate the Snake Eye Diabellstar effect to place the Poplar, and then it can special summon itself. Then we go Ash effect, send it with the Poplar that's in the spell trap in order to summon Oak. Oak effect is Chainlink 1 to summon back Ash. Poplar effect is Chainlink 2 in order to place itself. This plays around Ghost Spell, and remember, if you do the Snake Eye line the way I'm showing you, you will also be playing around Nibiru too. So Ash is going to revive, we're going to go Oak effect. Now because we have Magician Souls in hand, we're going to send away the Snake Eye Ash that's in our monster zone in order to summon out Flamberge. Still keeps you Nibiru proof by threatening to revive 2 Snake Eye bodies. Then we can special summon the Magician Souls by sending a Diabellstar from our deck to the graveyard. Now we can go Magician Souls effect in order to send away Poplar plus Temple. That'll get us 2 free draws, which finds us a maxi. Always love to see it. Again, you're likely to find hand traps after cycling through your Snake Eye engine. But now we can go for the Cupsy Yummy Way, using Linkuriboh plus Magician Souls. And then we'll activate the Cupsy Yummy Way effect. We're going to grab Cupsy Yummy, and we've already used Marshmao in this hand, so we're just going to grab a Cookie Yummy here. And we can just discard this Bonfire we don't need anymore. Now here I actually have not used my normal summon, but I still don't think it's a bad idea necessarily to throw out the Cupsy Yummy now. But you could always just wait after the Baron is summoned. It's probably not going to matter at this point. Like, even if they Nibiru you here, you still have the extra Yummy monster plus Surprise in hand, but this is where you make Baron de Fleur with Cupsy Yummy Way plus Flamberge. And then, of course, Flamberge will activate in order to revive 2 here. Just grab a couple of Snake Eye bodies, like so. Alright, we'll go into Snatchy with Cupsy Yummy. And then, in order to clear out some of our main monster zones, well, first we gotta place the field spell, of course, with the Snatchy effect. And then to clear out some of our monster zones, we're gonna make IP with Snake Eye Diabellstar plus whatever monster is underneath Yummy Snatchy. You can throw that right over there. Alright, now we can go Mignon effect in order to revive one of our Yummy monsters. We'll make Lollipo Yummy Way, again in the EMZ specifically. That way we have enough room to revive 2 Yummy names here. Those 2 Yummy names that we're going to revive with the Lollipo, that's going to go ahead and be the Cupsy Yummy plus the Yummy, or Cupsy Yummy Way rather, plus one of our level 1 Yummy monsters. And then from there it's just Martial Metal Marcher off Cupsy Yummy plus our Snake Eye monster that remains. I like putting Martial Metal Marcher in the main middle monster zone as well. That way, of course, the Herald is always going to be summoned there. And of course, as I mentioned a couple of times by now, I like summoning the Herald in the middle main monster zone, so that way Sprite Elf is always pointing towards it. Alright, now we can go Elf with the Lollipo plus the remaining Cupsy Yummy Way. We'll put that over here in the right. That way the zone that Elf is pointing to is open. A little bit counterintuitive, but of course you always want to leave that open, so that way IP can go into SP whenever you want. And then we set the Yummy Surprise. We even still have the extra Cookie Yummy in hand, but don't forget, because we use Wanted in this example hand, we are going to activate that last, putting back the OSS, and getting a 3rd and final draw. Once again, setting up our typical turn 1 end board, but the Marshmao Yummy that we opened alongside Wanted in this example hand allowed us the opportunity to play through so many more hand traps, baiting Izuna, as well as still finishing us off on a board that plays around Ghost Spell, Nibiru, and into the multiple Omni Negates, etc, etc. Okay, now that I've shown you how this deck plays, I'm going to go over the deck list in some more detail here. We're going to go over the individual roles of all of our cards. So, the starters for our deck are going to be Snake Eye Ash, Poplar, all of our Yummy cards. So that is a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 so far. The Diabellstar, also a starter, makes 12. Bonfire searches stuff, so that's 13. OSS with anything you can normal summon as a starter, I'll count that as 14, even though it's 1.5, close enough. And then of course we have Wanted for the Diabellstar for a total of 15 starters, definitely not bad. For our hand traps, of course, we have the 2 Droll Knockbird, plus Max C is 3, plus 3 Ash Blossom is 6, plus 2 Molcharming Perulia makes 8, 3 Fulos will add up to 11, Nibiru makes 12, and Imperm, 3 of those add up to a total of 15 hand traps, as well as 1 card starters. Very good ratio in that regard. This deck tends to get really good opening hands going first or second as a result of having that kind of balance, right? Of course, we also have some extenders as well. The main one being Magician's Soul, searchable off of the Dark Magician of Destruction. Marshmao, as we discussed, is the deck's best extender, able to bait out hand traps and be used before you have to commit to your main combo line. And in a lot of ways, you've got stuff like OSS as an extender too. There's a lot of hands where you could even consider Oak an extender, right? Like if you open Oak plus Marshmao, you could always later normal summon Oak, and even if you don't have anything to revive, still use the effect in order to get Ash and then Poplar, and then you could use Ash to go into Flamberge and access your Snake Eye engine that way. Our Snake Eye engine cards are of course going to be Ash, Oak, and Poplar, as well as the Diabellstar's Flamberge, Snake Eye's Diabellstar, Bonfire, OSS, Divine Temple, Wanted, and then our Yummy engine is naturally going to be the 3 Cupsy Yummy, 1 Cookie Yummy, 1 Lollipo, 2 Marshmao. We've got the Mignon, as well as the Yummy Surprise for the main deck, and then the extra deck, 1 of each of the Synchros, Cupsy Yummy Way, Cookie Yummy Way, and Lollipo Yummy Way. Let's see, that covers, I think, pretty much every card from the main deck. Of course, we've got Triple Tack in order to have some extra help when our opponent uses hand traps or to kind of break their board. If you don't want to play Triple Tack, you could always play more hand traps instead. But I like having that plus Cross-Out Designator to help with stuff. Plus, Yummy is a common enough mirror match that Cross-Out Designator can often be used as a negate as well. For the extra deck, of course, Dark Magician of Destruction is here to be summoned using Diabellstar and then search the Magician's Souls. These are part of our Yummy engine. Naturally, Metal Marcher is a way to get extra bodies while making Herald of the Arclight. Baron de Fleur can be used in order to obviously summon, or you can obviously summon her out with your Yummy Synchros plus 1 of your level 8s. Link Spider is for if they have Nibiru, it's part of that insurance. Link Kribo is a very important Link one to be summoned off of our Snake Eye engine. Almirage, I'm trying out over, in the past I've played WP Fancy Ball instead, but in the tournaments I played in, I only summoned this card 1 time. It did help. However, in playing on Ranked Ladder in particular, I've had some games where I'll like normal summon a Snake Eye monster and go into Link Kribo, and then my opponent ends up somehow banishing Link Kribo, and not having another Link one to go into off of a normal summon can really be a big hindrance in that regard. That said, Almirage hasn't come up for me yet, so definitely take this flex spot with a pinch of salt. But this is what I would consider to be the flexible spot of the extra deck. If you want to add another card like WP Fancy Ball, or if you decide you want to play Promethean Princess, I would definitely cut Almirage first. Snatchy, obviously part of the Yummy engine, then we have IP and SP and Elf, which are all pretty self-explanatory and seen in the combo lines. So yeah, as mentioned, WP Fancy Ball and Promethean Princess are other potential extra deck cards. You could also use IEP to go into Gorgon of Xylophonia. Also, as mentioned, the Dark Magician of Destruction could potentially add the Gaze of Timaeus if you wanted to play the Dragoon as another negate for your end board as well. Again, my main reason for not doing this is that I don't want to end up in a situation where I open or draw into the Gaze of Timaeus without access to Dark Magician of Destruction, because then this card just ends up sitting dead in my hand, right? As opposed to Magician's Souls, if I open this without access to Dark Magician of Destruction, that's fine. I can still summon Magician's Souls. It's an extra extender that still gets me extra draws. Another thing that you could do is you could search some other cards with the Diabellstar. Particularly, I've seen other Snake Eye Yummy builds that add an Azamina engine. Like if you already have access to Snake Eye and or Yummy plays, and you don't want to use Diabellstar to set up, Snake Eye stuff, you could use it to instead get Deception, which could then go into some of your Azamina cards with like Hallowed Azamina, letting you summon the Ilia Sylvia, Murashilago, can add, well, the Murashilago acts as an extender, whereas the Ilia Sylvia adds yet another negate to your end board. And I've even seen some builds go further to add a little bit of a White Forest engine. But at that point, you're getting into more of like 60 card territory. And for my tournament build, I very much like keeping it low to the ground at 40 cards. I think it's actually really important for this deck specifically to be at exactly 40 cards because it increases your odds of opening multiple starters, right? I've already gone on a lot, say that 5 times fast, about how good Marshmao Yummy is to open with one of your starters, right? That's a really good extender, but again, consider if you open like any of your Yummy monsters plus any of your Snake Eye starters. Then at any point, you can go into Link Kuriboh, and even if your plays are negated, you can special summon your Yummy monster and go full Yummy combo. Similarly, opening Diabellstar with Yummy plays acts as some extra insurance, or OSS is another really good option in particular as well. Like, let's say you open OSS plus Cookie Yummy. You could begin with normal summon Cookie Yummy, go into Yummy Snatchy. If they imperm it, OSS send away Yummy Snatchy, go for Snake Eye Ash. And this is extra good because not only do you still pivot into full combo, like you pivot into Snake Eye stuff, but remember Snake Eye stuff will go back into Yummy stuff later, meaning you can still end with Yummy cards on your end board going off of your initially negated Yummy combo line. Just a lot of ways in which this deck plays very well against hand traps and the meta. Now, as far as weaknesses go, I would say this deck's biggest weakness is that it's a little bit bricky. Particularly, you have to play Flamberge and Snake Eye's Diabellstar, and you really never, ever, ever want to see either of these in your opening hand. Now, granted, if you open these, it's not the end of the world, right? Like, the Snake Eye monsters can still summon Flamberge from hand, and the Divine Temple still places Snake Eye Diabellstar from hand into the spell trap zone. But obviously, that is super not ideal because you would want to be placing them from deck or summoning them from deck instead. So that's one of your bigger drawbacks. This deck does also kind of struggle to play going second. That's why I really like having, the Perulias and a bunch of hand traps as well as the triple tack here to really maximize my odds of being able to break opponents' boards. But it can be tough with just your engines alone. Snake Eye draws so many different kinds of disruption between, obviously Valor, Imperm, Ash on something like Snake Eye Ash. Poplar activates Izuna, makes that live for your opponent. Unless you play, with the setup that I showed you in the combo lines, it's really easy to fall prey to a Nibiru. And of course, Yummy still has its weaknesses of not really being able to push through disruptions very easily, especially if you have to use your normal summon on something like Cupsy Yummy. So yeah, brickiness and being a little bit weak going second, I would say are this deck's biggest weaknesses, but it's really versatile, and I think that is by far its biggest strength. If you open, again, pretty much any 2-card combo here, you can play through multiple hand traps every single time. A lot of ways to build this deck, a lot of ways for it to grow and evolve, and I'm definitely going to keep playing Snake Eye Yummy moving forward, even past the tournaments, the Deck Master Cups here. This is probably just my new favorite deck in Master Duel right now, so definitely going to keep maining it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thanks if you stuck around all the way to the end. It super means a lot. And since we're coming up on the end here, about to move to our credits, that way we can thank our YouTube members. Again, shout out to everyone hitting that join button next to subscribe down below, as well as Patreon subscribers over at patreon.com/Hexlex. Have some membership options there where you can see some exclusive content that does not get posted here on the main channel. But like I said, that's going to go ahead and do it. Let us now move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.